female menstruation patterns. These cycles are the key to everything that we are talking about and to all the prophecies of the Mayan people. And so now we can see that there are many cycles within the movements of the earth, and the precession of the equinox is simply one of them that is influenced by all the other cycles. There are others, but you get the image. If we were to look at the end of this little tip up here, like I said, it forms an elliptical pattern. And to blow that up, we would see that there are 2 points that are the most distant points from the center of the circle, which are called the apogee and the perigee. You can hardly say it. And these 2 points will become more and more important as we progress. According to science, in the year 2000, like I said, it takes the Earth 25,771.5 years to make one complete circle. And as it does, it moves through all 12 signs of the zodiac. So this axis actually points to different zodiacal signs as it moves through there. And according to the ancient Hindus and the Tibetans, each time the axis of the Earth moves into a new sign, humanity completely changes in a very specific way. It's a little more complicated than what I'm saying, since the Hindus break up the periods of time in this ellipse into what are called yugas, and they are a little different than the astrological signs themselves. So on December 21st, 2012, the axis of the Earth begins to point into the sign of Aquarius. And according to the ancient world, we begin to rapidly change our consciousness. And according to the Maya, this consciousness change actually begins not necessarily on that specific day, but somewhere within the end of time window, which we are now within. Now let's look at this date of October 24th, 2007, that began the end of time. What was special about this date? There is another indigenous tribe of the United States called the Hopi. The academia believes that this tribe came across the Bering Strait from Russia over to Alaska and then walked down the coast of Canada and eventually migrated to where they are now in northern Arizona. But according to Grandfather Eric, a member of the Hopi Council and the historian for the tribe, he's actually the last living member of this particular part of the tribe, that this is not true. The Hopi did not come in that way. They came from Guatemala. And at that time, when they left from Guatemala, they were Mayan, not Hopi. And the Mayans sent them forth north for reasons that are still hidden by the Maya and the Hopi. But the fact that the Hopi were originally Maya was acknowledged before me by both tribes. I actually sat and listened to them as they told me this whole thing. And in November of 2007, Grandfather Eric and I were riding in a bus in Guatemala, sitting beside each other and talking. And Grandfather Eric asked me if I saw the blue sphere in the sky on October 24th, 2007. I told him I didn't actually see it, but that my daughter saw it and watched it as it happened. I told him I saw it on the internet, but I didn't see it. He said, "Could this be the blue star prophecy that was prophesied over 200 years ago by our tribe?" You know, I didn't know the answer to that. I wasn't Hopi. But here's what happened. Just before October 24th, 2007, a comet named Holmes came into our solar system. A very small, fast-moving comet. No scientist thought too much of this cosmic event. It wasn't a big deal. But then on October 24th, 2007, this comet exploded and rapidly became a huge blue sphere in the sky, expanding and expanding until it became larger than the sun. It is now recorded as the largest object ever observed in our solar system. And so as I understand it, when Grandfather Eric arrived back home in Hopi land, the Hopi Council met and it was agreed upon that this blue sphere was the blue sphere prophecy of the of the Hopi. It was rapidly accepted all over the North and South America, and it was also accepted by the Maya as the beginning of the end of time. So this is how this came about, this period of end of time. It wasn't just a random event or some little thing. It was one of the biggest events that ever have occurred in our solar system that we know of ever. There is a second part of this Hopi prophecy with the coming of a red star. The Maya and the Hopi will not discuss this with me, though I know there's been written about in books, but I'm not going to talk about that. But I feel confident that they will in the future. Now, when Don Alejandro was in Sedona, Arizona in July of 2007, he gave part of the Mayan prophecy, one item. And there are many, many more. And he said that what he said, and this is Mayan prophecy, definitely. He said that there would be a physical pole shift of the Earth's axis sometime within the end of time. Now, this is nothing new. Since Edgar Cayce gave this same prophecy long ago in the 1930s or so, perhaps I should simply say that they agree. And Cayce said that sometime after the winter of 1998, the axis of the Earth would shift to a new location. And he even gave the exact location of where he predicted the axis would move to a very specific point inside of Russia, approximately 16 degrees from where it is now. Considering that Edgar Cayce gave about 12,000 predictions from 1920s to 1970 and was only wrong on one small prediction, he gave a reading while he was in the United States on a man in France and reached his twin brother by mistake. Edgar Cayce's predictions are among the most accurate in the world. And modern science has been intensely watching this possibility of a pole shift. A physical pole shift always begins with a magnetic pole shift first. And science has noted that the magnetic field of the Earth has begun to weaken about 2,000 years ago. And then about 500 years ago, there was a dramatic shift in the strength of the magnetic field as it became weaker and weaker. Then about 40 years ago or so, the magnetic field began to change in ways where the magnetic lines that had been more or less fixed for a long, long time began to wander. This resulted in the whales that used these lines to migrate began to beach themselves on land, something we'd never seen before. The magnetic lines changed from their established positions, and some of them now entered into land masses which never had before. No one had ever seen whales this before, and no one had ever seen the magnetic lines change like this before either. Then the birds began to show up in locations that were not part of their migration patterns, again, because the Earth's magnetic lines were changing. And they were changing because the Earth's magnetic field was getting weaker and weaker. In the 1990s, the astronomical maps of the world, the aeronautical maps of the world used for landing airplanes at the airports had to be changed worldwide because of the old ones were simply not valid anymore. And today the magnetic lines are so unreliable, the magnetic maps have to be checked every single time a plane lands to make sure that their guidance systems are functioning properly. In 2003, a television special came out of Nova, which gave a team of scientists the airtime to begin to talk about the possibility of a magnetic pole shift. These scientists felt that Earth's magnetic poles will shift sometime in the near future and that it was imminent. And then a little less than 2 years ago, the world scientists who observed the Earth's magnetic fields went onto the internet to warn the world. They were given 11 days before the government shut them down and wouldn't let them keep talking. Probably